Good morning. Uh, Happy to be here today. As most of you probably know, it's my first time. Andrew kind of put me on the spot. He's like, "Oh, you want to do an internship with us? Well, you're gonna have to preach." So now I'm here, and yeah, it kind of made me realize the amount of work that goes into coming up with sermons. So every week, Andrew does this, man. It's kind of you see it and you enjoy it, and you keep a close eye, keep a close ear, you listen, and but yeah, the work that goes behind it is pretty cool. Um, but yeah, grateful to be here. I know not everyone gets this chance to be able to speak in front of a lot of people. No, it's not the most enjoyable all the time. It's still something to be grateful for. But yeah, I was telling Andrew, I'm more of a writer than a speaker. So I was telling him, man, like it'd be so much easier if I could just write everything in an essay and just send it to everyone, and then I stand here and answer the questions. That would be, yeah, not better, but easier. But yeah, we've been going through the Gospel of Mark, and yeah, chapter after chapter. It's been a year now. We've been studying one book, which is pretty crazy. And the whole idea was to be amazed by Jesus, was to listen to the story of Jesus, the things Jesus did, the things Jesus spoke about, and to be amazed, to be like a jaw-dropping awe, like wow. But like Andrew ended off last week at the end of his sermon, he was saying that it takes more than amazement, and that it's not news that should leave you amazed, and that's it. It's like watching a new movie. Like I was watching the new Spider-Man last week, and it's like, oh, great movie. You're in the moment. It's like, wow. But realistically, like an hour or two after the movie's done, it's like you move on to other things. The news, like the good news of Jesus, it requires more than amazement. So that's one of the things I'll be talking about. I'll be talking about the divine identity of Jesus, of Christ, which is more amazement, but then the response to it. So how we should or how we ought to respond after hearing and learning about it. So yeah, I'll be talking about John, and I really like John. I enjoy reading John a lot. It's very dense in a way where there's always a lot to unpack in every chapter. Mostly in the first one, I would argue. I don't know if theologians would agree, but the first chapter is just very dense, and there's a lot that could be talked about. But yeah, let's go right into it. Um, John chapter 1, verses 1 to 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and apart from him, not even one thing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and that life was the light of mankind. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not grasp it. A man came, one sent from God, and his name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify about the light. This was the true light, that coming into the world enlightens every person. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, and yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not accept him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of a man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we saw his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So yeah, very dense. There's I know people in this very room that could spend hours and maybe even days talking to you about singular verses, like David, for example, or Waro right here. But see, as a bit of background, most of you probably know this, but kind of have to do this to talk about context. All of the New Testament was written in Greek, so it was Koine Greek, which is known as Common Greek, and back then in that area, it was the most common language. So the area would be like Eastern Mediterranean that was controlled by the Romans. So most people spoke Greek either as a first or as a second language. So kind of like English is used as a second language for pretty much anywhere in the world. Like two people don't speak the same language, it's straight to English for communication most of the time. So that was Greek in that area, which which is why, yeah, writing all of the Old Testament or all of the New Testament in Greek was a way to reach as many people as possible in the area. So as we dive into the text, I want to talk about the first verse. So the first verse, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Now the word in Greek is logos. And Greek, like Hebrew, and these languages that the Bible was written in back then, these languages are very, once again, dense. The word dense, it's like the meaning that singular words in Hebrew or in Greek can have many different meanings and can mean very different things, which is one of the things that explains why there's so many translations of the Bible. Because theologians and historians have to gather together and they have to study and discern and decide which is the best definition for each little word. It's crazy. I've only looked at a couple, and there's, man. But that word logos, that's what we're going to focus on for the first part. The word logos, the word. And yeah, it simply means word or speech, the spoken word. So like speaking a word out loud. And it's nothing special, right? It's like the word means word. But it's important because of the way John starts his gospel. So he starts his gospel with by saying "in the beginning," and in the beginning. That's when you know the Bible a little bit. The only other text that you can think of that has "in the beginning" is the very first sentence of the Bible. When you open your Bible, it's Genesis 1, and it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And this is how John starts his gospel, which, once again, it's fair to assume John's a Jewish man. He spent a good amount of time with Jesus, learning from Jesus, watching Jesus, staying with Jesus. So he knows the Torah. He knows Genesis 1. So once again, intention. In the beginning was the Word. And John starts his gospel with "in the beginning." There's a natural line of questions that we can think of. Oh, does he mean the same beginning as Genesis 1? Is he talking about a different beginning? What did the Word do in the beginning? Where was the Word? What is the Word? But if we go back to Genesis 1, we see something very similar happening. So Genesis 1 begins with, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." When you compare it to the first verse, it's not identical, but you could tell there's a relation between the two. This is once again like intention. And what I'm going to focus on is how God creates. So John 1, you read the first sentence, it brings you to Genesis 1. What's Genesis 1 mainly about? It's about God creating the world, God speaking the world into existence. And you see this for each day of creation, day 1, day 2, day 3, it goes, God said, and it was so. So God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God said this, and it was so. And he speaks. So God speaks through words, and creation obeys, comes into existence. So Genesis shows us that God's word is the means through which he brings creation into existence. I'm sure some of you could see where I'm getting at. But when John comes along and says, "In the beginning was the Logos," was the Word, was the spoken Word, and then through him all things were made, right? Verse 3, it goes, "Through him all things were made." All things came into being through him. And he's talking about the Logos here, what translates to the spoken Word. So not only that, he chose to say "in the beginning," that brings us to Genesis 1, but he also chose to use the word Logos, the word, the word spoken word. So John is connecting Jesus directly to the God who created in Genesis. The word through whom God created is the Logos. And John tells us that this Logos is Jesus. Now you might be wondering, we just went through Mark, and we see Jesus as a man, as a human that walks around, that talks, that is very human, he's human. So how can he be a word as well? How can Jesus go from human to spoken word? And for this, I need to talk about the power of speech, the power of speaking words. So I have a couple examples. Andrew told me examples are good for a message. So I have 3 examples. I hope it's not too many. But the first example is about a sister putting away dishes. So it was funny during the first service because my sister was literally right here in front of me. So I was like talking about her in front of the whole crowd. It was funny. But imagine you have soccer practice. You got to go to soccer practice. You just finished eating dinner. You don't have time to put the dishes away. And you see your sister sitting there finishing her food on her phone. And you think, oh, she's not doing anything. She could put the dishes away for me. So it's like a line of reasoning. You're thinking, right? You think, oh, I have to go to soccer. I don't have time to put my dishes away. She's right there not doing anything. Therefore, she can do it for me. And I don't get in trouble later. So it's like there's a line of reasoning. There's thoughts that go on in the mind. But, right, your sister's not Professor X from X-Men. She can't read your thoughts. So you have to use your words. You have to speak to her. You have to say what your mind was telling you, which is, oh, can you please, if you're a nice brother, you say please, can you please put my dishes away? I got to go to soccer. Once again, if she's a loving sister, she's going to do it. If not, well, it is what it is. But yeah, another example would be like sports analogies. Sports analogies are fun. So I love playing soccer. It kind of goes for any sport really, but let's say you're a forward. So you're a forward, your role is to score goals. So you see your teammate with the ball and you think, oh, I have an opportunity right now. If he gives me the ball right now, I could score a goal. So once again, it's like this line of reasoning that goes on. You see your teammate with the ball, you see the goal, you think, oh, I can do this. But you need to use your words, you need to speak. So you say, hey, pass the ball, I'm open, I can score. And then last example, I can't talk about marriage because I'm not married. That's not allowed. So I'm going to talk about like a kind of like relationship, right? So like a friend or a girlfriend. I don't have a girlfriend, but let's say you hang out with someone, you just spend too much time with them. And you're like, man, I just need some time alone right now. I need to sit down, just chill, watch a movie. Just sit down for a minute alone. And I'm sure many of you know this, but like just thinking it doesn't make it happen. You actually need to communicate it and verbalize it, which is the harder part. But yeah, it's this transition between God, the creator, and then creation itself. And then the word is the middleman. So it's through the word that God created the world. It's through this spoken word, this speech. So John is saying that the bridge between creator and the reality of creation is Jesus himself. So let's look more closely at this. For God to say, let there be light, there must be a voice. There must be a voice that one can hear. There must be like a physical sound. And when I say physical sound, it's not physical in a way where you can touch it, but physical in a way where, your physical body that has senses, you can hear words. You can listen. You can hear. So from my perspective, once again, this is my interpretation. I can't come here and say, like, this is what the text means. So from how I read the text, from how I see things, Jesus is not just a physical body with flesh and bones, but can be seen as Genesis shows us, as a middleman between God and creation. A means through which God speaks, and the physical speaking is Jesus. Jesus was literally the voice of God, the physical representation of God in Genesis 1. So when we put Genesis 1 and John 1 together, we see something interesting. The God who spoke creation into existence is the same God who dwelt among his creation. So the God that was like Jesus, we're talking about the man Jesus that was the Word in the beginning during the time that God created the world, speaking the world into existence. The same Word that was spoken dwelt among his creation in flesh and bones. And then another relation between Genesis and John, just for fun. And David, man, once again, David can do this all day, or I could do this all day. It's just like dissecting the two, John 1, Genesis 1. There's this concept of light. The word that brought light into the darkness in Genesis became flesh and brought his light into the darkness of our world. So in Genesis, you see this like, let there be light. And once again, depends a lot on interpretation. But when you see it in Genesis, you think of physical darkness, like actual darkness, and light coming into the world, like actual light. And then John brings it up in John 1. He says, verse 5, I believe. So yeah, 4 and 5. In him was life, and that life was the light of mankind. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not grasp it. Or some translations say, the darkness did not overcome it. So you have this concept of physical light in Genesis 1 and this concept of like spiritual light in John 1. It's like the world was dark and the Word became flesh and brought his light into the darkness of our world. So that's the first meaning of the word logos. It's only the first one. So the spoken word. And then the second meaning of the word logos, and I had fun with this one because I'm a big philosophy fan. I studied philosophy a little bit, and so when I chose to do this, it was like, okay, wow, there's a lot of philosophy that I can bring up here, and it actually aligns with what we're talking about. The logos, the word that means logos, could also refer to reason, the logic, which the word logic came from the word logos. And even more than that, there's philosophers out there that would call this logos the rational principle that gives order and meaning to reality. So that's hard to unpack, but I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's interesting. So there's philosophers like Heraclitus, Marcus Aurelius, Greek Stoics, and their view on this logos, their belief was that the universe was not random or chaotic, that the universe didn't come out of nothing, that it's not just a random occurrence of events that brought the world into existence, but that there was this rational order holding everything together, that something organized in this universe using reason and logic as a means to do so. So as a brief explanation, more context on Stoicism, which is what Stoic philosophers, they practice Stoicism, which is it's an ancient Greek philosophy that it was designed to help people live a good, calm, and moral life. It teaches you that you can't control anything that goes on around you, but that the only control you actually have is on how you think, how you act, and how you react to what goes on around you. And they also believe that true happiness, or fulfillment would be the better word, comes from building good character, seeking virtues rather than chasing things like money or fame or social status. And these Stoic philosophers, they looked at the order and coherence, so organization, like it made sense. They looked at the order and coherence of the universe and believed that reality was not ultimately governed by chaos, that there was a force that was there, a rational principle, this force that they called the logos, that holds all things together and that has organized everything to be. So this is what gave the universe its order, this thing they call the logos, and they believed ultimately that creation points to a creator. By admiring creation, they thought, okay, this is like too good to be true. There has to be a force that created all of this. But yeah, when I was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, he says, it's the active, rational, and divine principle that orders and governs the universe. So there's this force that created the universe, and it is a rational force. But not only that, Stoics believed that this universal reason that held everything together, human beings, so us humans, we shared in it through our own ability to think and reason. So because we can think, because we have this intelligence, and we can reason, we can bring order, this ability that we have, that they believe this force also has, connects us to this creator. This is this is the Stoics' view on it. So it was very nerdy, and that's philosophy. But yeah, an example, and it's actually the perfect example. It's called the iPhone example. To kind of simplify it, so I wake up in the morning, there's this sound that comes from my device, and I go on it, and I can send messages, I can call people halfway across the world, I can, click a little button that's shaped like a heart, and then it sends a notification that I liked someone's post. So it's like I use my phone, and it's so practical, it's so cool. I never actually think about how it works, and I don't understand a thing about it. Which if if you're good with technology and stuff, maybe you'd understand more than me. But you have this phone that you use daily that's practical, and I don't understand how it works, but it just does. And I like it, I'm fine with it. I'm actually glad it works. During the first service, my laptop died, so my notes just turned black. And then I think Gabe or Denny reminded me that I actually have a phone. So I took my phone out, and I was glad it worked because I didn't have this thing memorized. But that's the way that the Stoic philosophers saw the world. They didn't understand it, why it was this way, how there could be a rational order to the universe, or how it came to be, but it just is. It's like the maths. If there's any mathematicians in the room, I hope not, because it wouldn't make my example work. But like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like it just is. I can't tell you why when you add 1 and 1 together, it equals to 2. I can't tell you why. It just does. Like that's the good mark that you get in school, right? If you answer 2. And yeah, we also see the same language. There's these Stoic philosophers that think this way, that see this thing called the Logos. The same language, the Logos, is used by Jewish thinkers. So there's a Jewish thinker called Philo of Alexandria. And he lived around the same time as Jesus. And he used the language of the Logos when he talked about God's relationship to creation. So the difference here is, like Stoic philosophers, their belief on God was this Logos. They couldn't pinpoint it, it was just this force. Then you got the Jewish thinker that believes in God and that sees this Logos as the way that God interacts with his creation, God's relationship with his creation, the way that God brought order to the world. So John is writing into a world where there's both Jewish and Greek thinkers who are already using this language. Once again, I think it's intentional. I can't speak on his behalf, but he's using the same word, the Logos. That means it has all these different definitions. And he chose this word that also aligns with the same language as Stoic philosophers that describe this organized rational force that governs the universe. And then there's these Jewish thinkers that believe that the Logos is the way that God interacts with his creation. We're talking about God's relationship to creation, the way God brings order to the world through this thing that he calls the Logos. So yeah, just for clarity purposes, like the same Logos, like they're all three different, they're the same word, but they're all different versions of the word. So the Stoic philosophers have their own version of it, and the Jewish thinkers have their own version of it. But what John does is he grabs both of their versions, and he says, hey, you guys aren't that far off, but this Logos you guys are talking about, that's a man. That's Jesus. That's a living, breathing man that I hung out with, that I talked to. This great force actually dwelt among us. So he makes this bridge where Jews believed in God, but not in Jesus. And then these Greek philosophers were using the word logos to explain this force. And he makes the bridge, and he points both of them to Jesus, using the same word that they use, but pointing it towards the truth that both Jews and Greeks were seeking. That's what they were doing. They were studying this logos. They were seeking it. I want to know more. And John's like, hey, guys, just look this way. This logos is actually a person who is Jesus. So John takes this philosophical idea and makes a much more personal and radical claim. So when he says, in the beginning was the Word, in the beginning was the Logos, he's saying that the one behind the order of the universe was already there in the beginning. And not only that, but he also dwelt among us. So he doesn't leave us with this idea of an invisible force. He tells us that the Logos was with God, that the Logos was God, and that through the Logos all things were made. He tells us that this Logos dwelt among us. He became flesh, became human. So in other words, this is the main point, the ultimate reason and order behind everything that exists is not simply something to understand, some concept to grasp, but it's someone we can know. It's the person of Jesus. And I thought of Paul's letter to the Colossians, and it's a really cool part of Colossians. It's chapter 1, verses 15 to 17. And I think it explains it very well. So it says, the Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. And this is the main one. This is like the home run. It's like he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So once again, it's this idea of Jesus as this middleman between God the Father and creation. It's through Jesus that God creates, and it's through Jesus becoming flesh and dwelling among us that God gave redemption to the world. But when you hear all of this, you got the two definitions. You got Jesus as the Logos, the word through which God created the world, and then you have Jesus, the Logos, as the ultimate reason and order behind everything that exists. How should we respond? What's next? You hear all this. So, well, what do you do with that? And what Jesus points us to do, and this is something else John talked about. I was reading John. It was kind of homework, right? I was reading John over the last month or so, and it's like he preaches a lot of what Jesus does in John when he talks, when he speaks, when he interacts with the crowd or with the disciples. He's not just talking about random things. He's preaching. He's talking about the good news, the gospel. And the point in common that he says again and again and again throughout the Gospel of John is believe. Believe. So it's like you have this Logos, spoken word. You hear all these things. All you need to do is believe. Live as if it is true. So, how do you believe? And I want to talk about the word abide. It's in John chapter 8. And it's the word that John brings up when, not John, Jesus. John brings up Jesus. Jesus brings up the word abide when talking to a crowd of Jews that believed in him. So it says they believed in him, but Jesus had to correct them. It's not belief. It's like reorienting this belief. It's like there's more than just like associating your mind with something to think, oh yeah, that's true, and that's it. You can't just it's like a random fact. You believe in this, it's like, oh, that's cool. Just let it be where it is. It's more than just like believing in this way, right? Because that's the English word. Once again, it's this concept where language doesn't do justice, where the Greek language was a lot deeper and more profound than the languages we speak nowadays, and it was a lot more dense. So I was looking at, once again, the word believe in Greek, and it points to more than just simply like, oh yeah, that's true, and that's it, move on. It's like believing into something. So it like speaks about relationship almost. And so yeah, John chapter 8, verses 31 and 32, it says, "So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, 'If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.'" And this word abide, it's once again nerdy stuff going into Greek. Like the word abide for Greek is meno. So I chose a translation that says the word abide. It might say the word like remain in, it might say something else on your translation, but the main point is the Greek word meno, the Greek word that was translated into all these different words. And it means to, the literal definition of abide, of meno, is to be in a place or to stay somewhere. So Jesus uses it in the first chapter of John. He's literally just talking to the disciples of John the Baptist that are following him, and he's saying, oh, where are you going to abide? In other words, like, where are you going to sleep tonight? What house are you going to go to? The exact same word he uses here in chapter 8 when he says, abide in me. So it's like, believe in me. Like, he wants relationship is what he's saying. He wants to have you close. And it's not like he's demanding it. It's like the whole gospel is Jesus, God, the Logos, became flesh, chose. So again, it's choice. Like he could do whatever. He could snap his fingers and just restart creation all over again whenever he wants. He chose to dwell among his creation in the flesh, to show them, to guide them. Like this is the truth. Guide them towards the truth. And he says, abide in me. Be a part of me. So the way that Jesus means it is abide in me. He means follow me. Stay close to me. Keep your eyes on me. How do you abide? Step one is, belief. You can't be a part or follow or remain in something that you don't believe in. It's like, I was trying to think about it and make sense of it in an example, but it just doesn't make sense. So it's not going to make sense, but I thought of like running after someone. You can't be running after someone that you don't believe is there, or you're just a maniac just running around after nothing. So it's like, who are you catching up to? Like, there's no one there. In your eyes, like you don't see anyone there. It doesn't make sense. You need to believe. But once again, these Greek definitions, they point us that word believe that we see in English, it's actually more than just seeing something and thinking it's true. It's like living in accordance to it. So if this is true, I'm like, this is the priority. This is too big to just leave on the side. So you follow, you stay close to, you keep your eyes on. And this is how these Stoic philosophers, last time I bring up Stoic philosophers, I promise. It's the way they would abide in this concept that they saw as the Logos, is they would think, oh, well, if this Logos is rational, intelligent, and uses logic to create and hold all things together, well, I have logic, and I have a rational, intelligent mind, so I'm going to use it. This is like they made the connection, like, oh, I'm going to use it to connect with this Logos. How did they do that? They studied, they read, they talked, they were seeking it, trying to learn more about it. They didn't sit around and waste their time drinking. It's just like, it was much bigger. Like what they came upon was much bigger than themselves, more important than all of the other things. So they sought meaning, which is found by aligning yourself with the Logos, choosing light rather than darkness. So it's like Jesus is, that's what it says in John. He is light coming into the world, the light of mankind. And he makes himself known. But we also have the power to choose. So do we choose to be in the light, or do we choose to ignore the light? But But yeah, if there's one message that you should leave with today, because I talked about a lot of random stuff, it's that Jesus is the Logos through whom God created the world, and he's also the Logos that holds all of creation together. And whoever believes in him, whoever abides in him, puts their faith in him, is saved from death, has the right to be, is given the right to be a child of God, is united with nature, united with the creator of the universe. And we actually get to call this great word, this great Logos, Father. This God, creator of all things, we call him Father. He offers us, he gives it to us. He's like, yeah, I'm your Father. Daughter to Father, or son to Father, daughter to Father. So yeah, becoming one with the Creator. That's the message. So yeah, I'm just gonna pray now. So if I want to bow our heads. Father, thank you because you chose to dwell among us, because you chose to become flesh and bones, to make yourself known to us, that you are the supreme Son of God, and that you are the firstborn over all creation, that you didn't have to do any of these things, but you chose to. You chose to suffer and to die a death where even being God, you were human. You felt the pain just like any of us would feel the pain of dying, of how you died, and then you showed to us all that you said. You proved it through your resurrection, Lord. So thank you. I pray that you guide us, Lord, each and every one of us. Guide our steps, that we may take the next right step towards you, Lord. Guide us, speak to us in refreshing ways, Lord, because it's what you want. But we have the power to choose. You want to be with us, but it's also our choice. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus, and bless the rest of this day. In Jesus' name, amen.